Okay, let's first discuss relative clauses. As we said, relative clauses are parts of the sentence that contain who or which or that and provide some additional information about your subject. So if you remember the 5 points of development and idea, you'll probably remember that one of them is an additional, a piece of additional information. So without starting a new sentence using a linker like in addition or to add to that, you can actually build your additional information into your sentence and so fulfill the function by using grammatical means. So let me demonstrate this. In our paragraph, we've got, for those who are forced to spend hours upon hours at work, studying language is easier said than done. So here we've got two sentences, really. We've got people spend a lot of time at work, and people, and it's difficult for these people to find time for studying. You could connect them with a linker. For example, say something like, people spend a lot of time at work, and it is difficult for them to find time for studying. Or, because some people spend a lot of time at work, it's difficult for them to find time for studying. Or you could say people spend a lot of time at work, so it's difficult for them to find time for studying. But those sentences are not going to increase your grammar score very much. So to show the range of grammar, you want to use who. And we're going to end up with something like people who spend a lot of time at work, find studying difficult. Now, you can just jazz it up a little, add a couple of idioms, and you're golden. This is going to be a more advanced sentence, which is going to increase your grammar score and hopefully impress the examiner. Now, in these sessions, I'm not going to give you a lot of exercises and go through all the ins and outs of grammatical tenses. I just want to recommend you a book. That's one of my favorite grammar books that I highly recommend you go through, which is called Grammar Lab. And what you're looking for is Grammar Lab Intermediate, in particular, Module 10 for conditionals and Module 14 for relative and participle clauses. So as an example, let's look at one exercise that will help you. Now, 71. So the book is built like this. You've got a rule with all the explanations, all the examples you need to know, and then you've got exercises. So let's have a look at this relative clause part 1. It's a big rule. Relative clause part 1, and do one exercise together, shall we? So here we've got a simple sentence, and we need to make it cooler. For example, we used to go to that school, and the relative clause would be, this is the school where we used to go, or This is the school we used to go to. You can stop the video and try doing it yourself, or let's do it together, shall we? So I told you about that woman, or she's the woman who I told you about. You were interested in a musical. Is it Mamma Mia? Or is Mamma Mia the musical that you were interested in? We walked under that old railway bridge. That's the old railway bridge. Getting easier, right? That we walked under. The insurance company has already paid for those repairs. Those are the repairs that the company has already paid. Or you could say those are the repairs for which the company has already paid. For which, by the way, would sound more formal and more appropriate for your academic essay than saying something like, for those are the repairs which the company has already paid for. But it's not a mistake if you put it at the end. The committee has no control over this matter. So this is a matter which the committee has no control. Since there is no over at the end of the sentence, I'm going to put it here in the beginning, for which the committee has no control. No, sorry, over which, of course. Over which the committee has no control. The bank has lent money to those customers. Those are the customers has lent money. So you could do it in different ways depending on the formality. For example, those are the customers who the bank has lent money to. But it would be not very formal. To be extra fancy, you could do it like this. To whom the bank has lent money. So there is a lot of nuance. There is a lot of there are a lot of things to be aware of, but that's what you need grammar books for. And if you study the rule carefully, do the exercise in a book like this, and then check yourself with the keys, you are going to get the hang of it pretty quickly. You are going to be much more confident in your use of relative clauses. Now, speaking of the conditionals. Conditionals is another pain in the neck, to be honest. We've got 4 basic conditionals and then 2 mixed. So if you want a 7, I would pay particular attention to using different types of conditionals and using them flexibly. Starting with if is a very basic way to build a conditional sentence. And we usually use them to show a condition, as is clear from the sentence, as is clear from the name. So here we've got conditionals in units 54 and onwards. So we've got a 0 conditional, we've got first conditional, we've got different alternatives to if, which are necessary if you want to use them flexibly, as you should, because flexible use is important for S7. Unlikely and unreal conditionals, which are second and third conditionals. And here's third conditional. And mixed conditional structures that rearrange third and second conditionals parts. It looks pretty confusing, but let's start with the basics. For example, in our sentence, we had, if we consider they would not have time or energy. Okay, this is neither the first or the second conditional. So why don't we look at first? So the book says, we use first conditional to talk about the results of a possible future condition, one we think is likely to happen. And it consists of present simple in the first part and future simple in the second part. So present simple in the if clause and future simple in the result clause. If they catch us, they will call the police. If I don't see you at the gym, I'll give you a call. So something likely, something completely possible, and something dealing with a specific situation. For example, let's look at this sentence, at this task here. Now, here we're supposed to match the parts of the sentences together. First of all, this task deals with first as well as zero conditional, which consists of present simple, present simple. Let me explain the difference. So first conditional deals with rules and things that are basically always true. So something that always happens. And it consists of if plus present simple and then present simple again. The second conditional, on the other hand, talks about, oh, sorry. No, I'm very sorry. This is zero conditional, of course. Zeroth, let's call it. Zeroth conditional. First conditional, on the other hand, deals with a possible situation in the future, which more often than not is specific. So we're not dealing with rules anymore. And it's reflected in the structure. So where in the zero conditional, it's if present simple, present simple. In the first conditional, it's if present simple, future simple. Right? So let's have a look at this task. When you book a superior room, it says, we provide fresh fruit and flowers every day. Sounds like a hotel policy to me. So it would fall under the rule category, right? When you book, notice how when is an alternative to if. When you book, present simple, we provide, present simple. It's a rule. It's a zeroth, so to say, conditional. Now, have a minute, pause the video if you want to do it yourself, but I'm going to do it with you. So, if you take items from the minibar, could be a rule, or it could be a specific sentence, a specific situation. We will add them to your bill on departure. Present simple, if you take, we will add them. Future simple. If the fire alarm sounds, present simple. What's the second part? Leave the building immediately. Right? It's an imperative sentence, an order, a direction, but it's present simple nevertheless. So it's a rule you always want to follow. If you eat in the hotel every evening, if you eat, present simple. What have we got? Could be A, could be D. Let's keep it, see what else we've got. If you require a vegetarian meal, we can provide a choice of meat-free dishes. Sounds like a rule, doesn't it? If you require, present simple, we can provide, present simple. If you require a meal after 10 p.m., I think B makes sense. Room service can provide snacks. Another rule for the hotel. If you require, room service can provide. And when you check out, don't forget to hand your key to reception. Another rule, notice how this is an imperative sentence. So what's left? We've skipped 3. If you eat in the hotel every evening, we'll give you a discount, right? So this sounds like a possible situation that leads to a result. They will give you a discount. So that's a pretty basic beginning of understanding conditionals. But if you have any kind of conditional in your writing as well as speaking, you are on your way of achieving a 7, grade 7 for grammar, right? Remember though, grammar is just 25% of your overall score. But without it, without flexible, correct, and varied grammar in your writing and speaking, you can wave your 7 goodbye. It's not going to happen. Now, as confusing as conditionals are, I think participle clauses, to be honest, are the most confusing of them all. So let's have a look at an example of participle clauses. We've got them here. Now, I love participle clauses because they serve a variety of functions, and you can use them in, well, for basically everything, for basically every function you can imagine. Here the rule says that we can use it to describe reasons, results, conditions, times and sequences. So something that happens at the same time or one after the other. Before we look at the examples, let's have a look at our paragraph again. So here we have a past participle clause. Burdened with additional commitments at home, they don't have time or energy. Burdened with additional commitments at home, nurses don't have time and energy to study. What function does this blue clause serve? Does it explain a reason or a result? Can we say that they don't have time or energy, so they're burdened with additional commitments? Probably not. We probably want to say because they're burdened, they don't have the time, like we did here. Because an emergency worker has a 12-hour shift and they have to look after their family at home, they don't have time or energy to study. So because, as if you remember, because is a linker of reason, but see how cool it is to express the same reason grammatically with a participle clause, with a past participle clause to be precise. Burdened with additional commitments at home, they don't have time or energy. How beautiful is that? This is beautiful. Now, what function does this blue participle clause serve? So they are much more likely to spend this time relaxing with the book or surfing the internet. So, is it reason, result, condition, or is it a time or sequence? Can we say they are more likely to spend this time because relaxing with a book? So relaxing with a book? No, I don't think so. They spend this time doing something. So two actions happening at the same time. So it's time or sequence. And this is another cool way to show two actions happening at the same time. You just use a present participle clause. And the examiner is going to be impressed not only with you using linkers, like in addition, because, so, etc., but also expressing those same functions grammatically. And participle clauses are your best friends here, or your worst enemies. So, for example, the rule says, because he's a student, he can get a discount on rail travel. Participle clause would be, being a student, he can get a discount on rail travel. Beautiful, I love it. A result. A snowstorm covered the motorway. Full stop. The result was that dozens of drivers were trapped in their cars. Sounds good? Yeah, but not good enough for us. With the participle clause, it looks like this. A snowstorm covered the motorway, trapping dozens of drivers in their cars. So snowstorm led to trapping the drivers. So trapping the drivers is the consequence, the result, expressed with the participle clause. Condition. If you give it enough water and sunlight, the plant will grow to 3 meters. Participle clause says, given enough time, given enough water and sunlight, the plant will grow to 3 meters. So given, is it present simple, past participle, present participle form? Give, gave, given. It's a past participle form, so passive. If you give it enough water, given enough water, the plant will grow. And of course, the most straightforward function, time and sequence. As I walked into the room, I noticed the flowers by the window. The easy way, walking into the room, I noticed the flowers by the window. A complex way. But this is the complexity we want. So, if you get the book and if you do the exercises, I'm pretty sure you will get the hang of it and understand it more fully. But you probably want to ask me, well, is it better to stick to easier? Yeah, is it better to stick to easier grammar, which I'm pretty confident in, and make fewer mistakes? Or is it better to go for a complex grammar, possibly make more mistakes, but, show that you can use that complex grammar? And my answer would be, it really depends on the score that you're after, right? You can get a 6.5 pretty confidently without using a lot of complex grammar. Throw in one or two relative clauses with who or which, that is pretty easy, and you can probably get a 6.5 for grammar if you don't make a lot of mistakes. Just a couple of slips, maybe a couple of errors, but not difficult, not serious mistakes. However, if you're aiming at a 7, you have to absolutely have to use complex grammar. Let me show you the assessment criteria for grammar. So these are assessment criteria for writing part 2. Now, in the grammatical range and accuracy, for S7, it's pretty clear that you want to use a variety of complex structures, right? Not just stick to conditionals, not just stick to participle clauses. You want a variety. I'd start from these three: participle clauses, relative clauses, and conditionals. Produces frequent error-free sentences. Frequent means 90%. The vast majority of your sentences are absolutely error-free. And you have to have good control of grammar and punctuation and may make a few errors. So this is what you need for S7. Now, if you use a mix of simple and complex sentence forms, you're destined to get a 7. Excuse me, you are destined to get stuck at a 6. If you have 50-50, I would still argue that's not good enough. If you have 50% of simple, 50% of complex sentences, that's not enough really. You want to be confident in your 7? Most of your sentences should be complex sentences, at least having 2 subjects, at least having 2 clauses. And the more complex, the better. You can make some errors in grammar and punctuation, but it doesn't reduce communication. So again, that's all for 6. If you have just 2 bullet points out of 3 here, that's not a 7. That's not a 6.5. That's a 6. Now you go 1 grade down if you don't fulfill even one of those criteria. So the answer to that question is, if you are fine with 6 or 6.5, if you're pretty confident in your lexis, in your vocabulary, if you're pretty confident in that you understand the task very well, etc., everything that we've covered already, then stick to your basic, well, okay, not basic grammar, but grammar you are comfortable with. Simple linkers, so, because, in addition, etc., etc. But if you are after a 7, then it's absolutely imperative that you use that complex structure in your paragraph, in your essay, as much as possible. The same is true for speaking, by the way. Let me show you the speaking descriptors. Right. For grammar range and accuracy, for speaking, you want, again, use a range of complex structures with some flexibility, right? So don't stick to 0 conditional or first conditional. Use second and third. Use when or in case or unless instead of if. Now you want to be flexible, and you want to produce, again, error-free sentences frequently. So 90% of your sentences should be error-free. And that's what you want for a 7, really. So to practice that more, I would suggest that you get a book I was talking about, and you just do the exercises. I would suggest you go through Unit 75, do the exercises there. You would go through Unit 72, 73, 74, if you're curious. And when it comes to conditionals, it is important, so we can't really skip anything here. I would go with Unit 54, 55, 56, and 57. That's a lot of grammar, isn't it? But I'm also going to ask the students of the pilot course to do a creative task with their own writing, and this will hopefully help increase the grammar. So this is it for this session. I hope you found it useful, and I'm so very thankful for everyone who has been active on the course. Let me switch to the camera. Right, so again, I'm very thankful for those who made suggestions, corrected some of my inaccuracies and mistakes, and I have learned a lot from preparing a course like that. That was the first time I did. So everyone who has joined the course in the Google Classroom, everyone who has been watching the YouTube videos, um, I'm very thankful. And I hope to see you maybe next time. If you have any suggestions as to what I should do next, I would love to hear them, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye, and thank you again.